Hi, welcome to the Family Blend. My name is Kari Perkins.
And I am Matt Perkins, and this is Benny. And we are talking today about telling your heart to beat again and the obstacles in moving forward into a new relationship. Here on this channel, we talk about our lives and how we have gone through the loss of each of our spouses, finding a new normal, and then moving forward in blending families and all that is involved in that. So today we're talking about some obstacles. There's 5 obstacles in moving forward. There's actually a lot more than that, but that's all we have time for today. So stay tuned and we'll get started here in a second. All right, today we are talking about telling your heart to beat again. And there's Benny and Coco that they are wanting to be a part. So recently we posted on the channel a lyric video of a song that I had recorded, Tell Your Heart to Beat Again. And it was on a project that I had recorded recently, or shortly after. I started recording shortly after Mary Beth had passed away. And I heard this song, and it was actually a friend, kind of a mentor, that shared this song with me. And I remember that day, and when I heard a specific part of that song, and it was the second verse, and it says, beginning, just let that word wash over you. It's all right now. Love's healing hands have pulled you through. So get back up, take step 1, leave the darkness and feel the sun. I remember, and I vividly, that morning when I was getting ready, and I called my producer and said, hey, we need to record this. And it spoke volumes to me that I think it was a point where I realized that God wasn't finished with me, that my calling, or what the plans, all of the things that I had that I looked to the future for, that wasn't done and over just because now I lost my wife and trying to figure all that out. And I think we can get to a point where we think, boy, life has ended in our lives as well. Did you feel anything like that when you were going through that loss? And what were some of the things that you had, or maybe questions about the future?
It was a lot of just, how would I even do that? Like, that's not a part of, I don't want anyone else know my crazy hang-ups or my, those kinds of things. And you just, the fear of knowing, getting to know someone else, or just, I don't know, just those.
Was there a point when you thought, maybe I do want to marry again, or maybe a point where you said, okay, I'm just going to be content with my life and then just live it out?
Well, yeah. I mean, I had never really been alone. I mean, I went from sharing a bedroom to then getting married, and so it was kind of.
You weren't sharing your bedroom with
no,
to-be husband.
Sharing a bedroom with a sibling, and then you grow up with multiple siblings, and so you really kind of just do life with your family, and then you get married, and then not understanding, like, what is going to happen? I can't be alone. Like, that was one of my first things I thought of, was I can't be alone. And I just remember God, like, going, you're not alone. Like, I mean, yes, that loneliness is there, the feeling of that. But that's where I think we get, I got to the point where I was like, okay, God, I don't know what this is going to look like, but I'm going to just kind of wave the white flag and say I surrendered to you. And if that is what I need to do, then that's okay. I just remember thinking, well, I maybe eventually will, if someone comes along, but that would probably be way years down the road because, I've got a family to raise and we're all hurting. And, so that was kind of I just remember a few months later, someone asking me, would you ever marry again? And I didn't know the answer to that except just to say, I don't know, but if I do, it's not going to be for a long time. That was my thought process.
Yeah. I think you go through, you're kind of reeling and in that, kind of craziness of life and that fog of grief. And so you're just trying to figure out, how do I manage life now? Like, what do I need to do? Like you were saying, I have kids to raise. I need to make sure that all of that is, a priority. And I remember a conversation with my daughters, that them saying, Dad, we don't want you to put your life on hold until we're out of the house for you to, begin to, see what a relationship looks like, or date, and so I remember, sitting there going, okay, so how does this work? What are the, what are the circumstances and how does this happen? And we'll talk about that in one of our next episodes when we're talking about, some common mistakes in dating and all of that. But today we're talking about obstacles to moving forward. And there are 5 that we're mentioning in this. And I think the first one will kind of hit this because this was, I think, preventing me from even thinking about getting into a relationship, and that was guilt. You have, you're concerned about, all of these things and what, how do I move forward? Does that mean that I don't love Mary? But you have all, your brain plays some crazy games.
Yeah, it does. It's like it brings pictures into your mind. It's like this is one thing, and you set it aside, and that's not how it is. But your mind, and I think it just plays with you in a way that's like gives you that guilt,
I think one thing that I read when I was up reading, and it was one evening that basically laid out and said, you can't when you married, you made a vow, and it was, I'm going to love you for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. And when I stopped and realized, well, wait a second, you can't keep a vow to now someone who has passed. You can still honor, you can still love them, and that doesn't mean that the love stops,
right.
But you can't move forward and live a life keeping a vow to someone that's not there.
Right. Well, and I think people go through the motions of those vows and they don't really think about that one, like, till death do us part. Like, that's just kind of like what you say, but do you realize until you've walked through it, really? And then you're like, okay, so it's not a bad thing, to move forward and
did you deal with any guilt things?
Yeah, I think it felt like I was, the like guilty, like you're betraying, and it's like, well, you're not betraying,
right.
It's that it's kind of a hard thing to explain, except that there are those feelings, you have them, and I think it's just our emotions and the feelings that we have just kind of get a hold of us, and they play with your mind, and
Yeah.
but this is, yeah.
It's you're in a position that you never thought you would be in. And so processing some of that, and it's not a, flip the switch and now I don't walk, through those feelings. I went through those feelings for a long time of, all of how do I process these things in my head and moving forward in a relationship. The second thing is worry. And being concerned about what other people think. I'm naturally, I can be a people pleaser, and I want to be I want to be a peacemaker, and I want to keep everybody happy, and I want to try and do all of these things. And the worry about what people think is a huge. That was a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
I was worried about what the girls would say. I was worried about what Mary Beth's family would say. That was another big one that I was. We met when we were 14, and here I had been with them. And
You grew up with them.
So that was. I was concerned about what they would think in moving forward, and there were a lot of things that a part of that, but worry is a big deal. I ended up talking with our counselor, which we went to. That's how we actually met and connected. Is we went to the same therapist and grief counselor, and so. If you have not found someone and you're walking through grief and you have not found someone that you can talk to, that you can help you process some of these feelings, I strongly encourage that you do so. That was huge for me, and I know for you as well.
Right.
But I worried about what the girls were going to say, to the point where I thought, okay, this will kind of sabotage this because, it's like, okay, we may have coffee, and so when I first was having a conversation with my daughters about, okay, how does this work if I were to go and have coffee with somebody or whatever. And so here is, daughter wisdom here talking with me. And so they're like, well, Dad, here we want to know before you do this. And it's not so we can sign off on it, but it's because, you're a very visible person in your job and in ministry. I serve as a worship pastor, and so there's a lot of people every weekend that are there, and we've also served in different parts of the country. So,
that too, plus I think just being preparing their hearts too, just that you're even stepping into that next, that kind of path.
And I think for when they were talking about that, it was, it's not that we have to sign off on this, but people can try and actually her quote was, girls are crazy and women are just older girls.
Yeah.
So wanting to know, she goes, I want to know, who is trying to get close to you and for what reason? Do they have wrong motives in this? And so I think from there, you'll know how open. You may have younger children. Ours were, in the teen area, in that range. But, you'll know how open you can be with them and whether they're prepared to talk about those things. But, I moved forward in that. One, I had a lot of worry, but with them at least knowing, okay, this, I'm doing this with the blessing, even though it's going to be difficult.
Right.
So I talked with them and said, hey, there's this person, their story because you heard about them in the town that we live in, and so talking about having coffee. I don't know anything about her really, other than she seems like she's a great mom because she's leading 5 boys through a grief process and wanting to keep them connected and find people, having godly men in their lives, the boys' lives, to keep them grounded. So that is one thing that I find, that's impressive to me. But she has boys, and then I paused and waited for their reaction, and going, okay, and it wasn't, they didn't shoot it down. But then I'm like, well, yeah, but she has a lot of them. And so I thought, hey, this will get me off the hook, and we won't. But I struggled with the worry for a long time. And our counselor gave me some advice.
I do
on
like
this.
sometimes he would just say, so what's the problem? And you're like, I don't know. And you kind of like, he would just, I just don't know what I'm going to do with this. I'm really worried about, like, what if he's this? What if it's this? What if these people don't like this or whatever? I mean, just all different realms of worry. And he would just look at you and go, and? Like, are they walking through this? And you're just like, okay, well, I don't know. So what do I do?
Yeah.
And still worry a little bit, but.
So we worry, you go through that process, which could be a huge obstacle of kids and then extended families, friends. The third thing is fear. Fear, maybe it's rejection. What are some of the things that you were maybe dealt with in the area of fear?
Well, there's a lot of different areas of that, but one in, like, deep rooted is just that accepting me for who I am, my flaws, my will he think I'm annoying when I talk? And so then there's some of the, like, surface things, and it's like, will he, I don't know, will he like my hair? I don't, just like random things you think of, but the fear of just being rejected is huge. Like, I was accepted no matter what by Eddie, and it was like, I was 1 minute I'm grumpy and the next minute I'm happy and excited, and it's like he just took it for what it is because we've been married for 20 something years, and it's like, it's okay. You don't really have to fear that, but starting a new relationship, you're just like, are they gonna, how are they gonna feel about me? Or,
and I think with that fear is don't start projecting yourself as someone different,
right,
so that they will like you.
right,
Because if you build a relationship on a false premise, at some point, I had a friend that he used the statement for years. He was like, people change, but not much. And at some point, the true you is going to come out. Mm-hmm. And if you build a relationship on something that's other than you, or, well, this is who I want to be, and so I'm going to,
Yeah, it's almost like, ooh, it's a start new, and here's what I want to do, and this is what I wish I was like. It won't last. Yeah. Being who you are is important, but I will tell you that you fight that. You fight that fleshly, just going, okay, God, I want to be who I am, because if he is gonna like me for me, they need to see me, and I think that's what's scary is
Yeah.
like just in general being a person going, I don't want to be somebody I'm not. Like this is who I am every day, and it was I honestly, you have to check yourself
Yeah.
all the time.
Well, and that leads us to the fourth thing is vulnerability. That you have to be honest of who you are, and then be vulnerable in what if they don't like who I am? What, these are some parts of me that I don't care for. What if they don't, and so I think we can start to look at and see all the things that they're not going to like about us, and we focus on those, and instead of here are the positive traits of here's what I'm walking, this is who I am. And so the risk of being vulnerable, it is scary walking into something new and moving forward. And I think the fifth thing that we hit, and that is stability. We've had so much change in our lives that led up to the loss of our spouse. Then you have change in, now we're trying to figure out how to manage this as a single parent. Everything is a constant moving part. And, I think we've both walked through intense change. Actually, then after in the first year of our marriage, but that's moving, way forward. You have to know when it's time to slow down. When, feel out, when is it time to move forward? I can say this for us, we didn't have a timetable or a flip of the switch saying, oh, we're going to move into a new relationship. I can just point back to the time when I heard this song and then start processing, okay, not knowing any timetable or any of that, but just opening my heart and my head to the fact that maybe there is another relationship in the future someday down the road that, everything isn't ended. We've been talking about all of these things of allowing ourselves to be open to new relationship. Maybe it's not a relationship in your life. Maybe it's just a new season in your life that you struggled with moving forward. If it's guilt, worry, fear, being vulnerable, willing to risk, to love again, it's not an easy task. And by us stating things, by no means are we saying that any of this is easy. There are a lot of conversations and a lot of nights that I was walking around the neighborhood going, oh my gosh, am I ready for this? Am I equipped for this? And so whatever it is, I know that there is a hope and a future for you, that this is not the end, that there is a new beginning that is for you. And in the bridge of that song, it says, let every heartbreak and every scar be a picture that reminds you that He has carried you this far. You may have some bumps and bruises and scars and scrapes and feeling pretty beat down right now. But just allow yourself to say, God, I thank you, one, for bringing me this far. And wherever it is or whatever you have for me, I'm willing to say yes and at least be open to it. And so I think today, as we look at this in our lives, I know that there are some great things for those who are watching today as well. So thank you so much for watching, and we hope that you found this beneficial, useful. If you have, would you please subscribe and also share it with some friends or family, people that you know that could use some of this. And our goal is to help people take the next step after loss and through life and in love, that there's hope for you. Check out our website, thefamilyblend.com. You'll find more information about our story and us. You'll also find some good
About our
coffee. That there's some always good coffee, and we have some music that you can check out. So, thanks so much.